and then go.
Well, this is Aamar Anwar, who I've known for many years. He's been a campaigner on a whole range of issues, including war, Palestine, a lawyer who's been involved in many cases and many campaigns for civil liberties. I'd just like to ask you, Aamar, why are you so committed to a yes vote, and what do you think this is all about, really?
For me, I was born and brought up in Liverpool. I moved to Scotland many years ago in '86, and it's been a gradual process. I always believed in the Union, but quite frankly, I'm now sickened of Westminster. We only have one Tory MP in Scotland, but it seems to me that our future, what we think, what we create, what we produce, everything is decided by Westminster, which is a gravy train. When it comes to issues like foreign policy, double standards, doing deals with butchers on the question of the Iraq war, people have had enough. People have had enough in Scotland. I've had enough, and I want a different way of dealing with things. And I think this opens the door. It opens there's a vacuum that's been filled. It's not as a result of the politicians or mainstream politicians, whether they be for independence or against independence. It's been a grassroots movement, which is the best part of what's taken place over the last, especially the last 6 months, of people who genuinely want change. They no longer want, from warfare to welfare, from the economy to foreign policy. They no longer want Westminster to decide. Ordinary people want a different way of doing things. And they're just fed up. They're fed up of being told, for instance, Gordon Brown, has been trotted out as some great political beast, telling us that we need to break with 100 years. Saying that if we vote for independence, we'll break with 100 years of Labour achievements. But they seem to have forgotten that when he was a Chancellor for 12 years as CBI dinners, he kept regularly saying we need to break with 100 years of Labour tradition, and he sort of out-Thatcher Thatcher. He was messianic in his pursuit of privatisation. He was the one who wrote the blank cheques for the war in Iraq, and he was the one who handed £1.4 trillion to the bankers, which he expected all of us to pay. Now, the idea that Ed Miliband trots into town with 100 Labour MPs last week, I think pushed a lot of people over the edge, because the idea that somehow that we should hold on till 2015 because Labour is going to save us, and a lot of people have been saying that, I think is frankly unacceptable, because even if Ed Miliband does get in, which I don't believe he will, I think it'll be a Tory or a UKIP coalition, a racist right-wing coalition, but even if Labour does get in, what are they going to do differently? Their answer is £40 billion worth of cuts. Continuing with that, they've already done the benefit cap, so they've shown their true colours, and I don't think that people want that in Scotland anymore. They want free education, they want a welfare state, they want free NHS, and the only way to defend that is by voting for independence. That's the only way, and it's a start. It's not the end. It's not a case of handing it over. I mean, I've been saying that in meetings up and down this country, that this isn't the case of putting an X in a box and then walking away for 5 years. I think it actually opens the movement up, where people have become so politicised, so engaged, that they're not just going to walk away and say,
well, this is the big hope, isn't it? That whatever the outcome, and I think we all hope for a yes, that actually, even if it's a no, so many people have been galvanised by genuinely democratic grassroots campaign, that they will start to continue campaigning around these issues, but also think about what this means for politics, that it's become a really great political campaign, which is, and it's obvious just being here for a short period of time, that if you look at the yes supporters and the no supporters, there is a real difference. The no supporters are clinging on to the past, they're clinging on to those sorts of things, and it's the yes supporters who've got something to offer. What do you think it means, though, for Labour? Do you think Labour are finished in Scotland after this?
When I've been speaking at meetings, I actually think that if there was a yes vote, then I think there is a possibility in an independent Scotland of Labour rejuvenating and moving to
Gordon
left
Brown
of centre.
Prime Minister.
Well, I wouldn't go as far as that. Man's a butcher. He's responsible for
but that may
crimes.
happen.
I don't think so, because I think there will be a bloodbath internally within the Labour Party. So I don't think that's likely to happen. But I think there's an opportunity for rejuvenation of the Labour Party. And when you see that something like 30 to 40% of members of the Labour Party are actually going to vote yes, that's come as a real shock to the Labour hierarchy. When you consider the fact that they never saw this coming. And they have no people on the ground. They have no people in the schemes of Glasgow, in housing schemes across Scotland, knocking on doors, speaking to ordinary people. speak of people who are, you know, living in a landscape that has been decimated. They have no contact. They've had to bus people in from outside. They have to bring in people, you know, 100 Labour MPs to Scotland, bus them up, walking with a suitcase, looking pathetic through town, not actually talking to anyone, just smiling at everyone and thinking that somehow that achieves the purpose. They don't know. They don't want to engage in every political meeting where we've debated them, the Labour leadership. They've not wanted to discuss foreign policy, they've not wanted to discuss the welfare state, they've not wanted to discuss the Iraq war, they've not wanted to discuss Palestine, they've not wanted to discuss issues that they know they have no argument. Because what they try and turn around and say, well, that's really got nothing to do with independence. This is, you know, this is something completely different. This is about they want to tag it as nationalism. And
it's obvious it isn't about nationalism.
And their argument, I mean, it's quite frankly patronising for them to turn around and say, oh, we believe in solidarity and we don't want to break up the UK because we believe in solidarity, Glasgow and Liverpool and Manchester. Say, well, that's all very well. When 13 years you were in power, you decimated the north of England, you decimated places in London, you decimated Scotland, you didn't do anything about it, people got poorer, and now in 30 years on, Scotland is the poorest it's ever been. We have 5 out of 10 of the most deprived areas in the United Kingdom. But there is still those people who either left the Labour Party or held on to the Labour Party membership, who became disillusioned, felt disenfranchised, who I think genuinely think that if there was an independent Scotland, it cuts their apron strings with the butchers, and it allows them to actually manoeuvre in and say, this is what we want in an independent Scotland. Because no matter what anybody says, you know, there's across the board an agreement, free education, you know, free, welfare state, NHS should not be privatised. The fact that even Tory politicians are turning around and saying, oh, well, we want that in Scotland. I don't believe that is what they want, but there's obviously a fair factor in Labour south of the border that if Scotland gets it, what's it going to do to us? I think it'll rejuvenate, it'll create a fight that if in Scotland we start to do those things in an independent state, then clearly Labour's going to be under pressure south of the border to say, why can't we do it?
I think this is already, I mean, certainly you get the feeling that people in England are being absolutely enthused by what's happening in Scotland, even if they don't necessarily agree with the yes vote. And I've talked to a number of people who said, look, I really support what they're doing in Scotland, but I'm frightened for what it means for England, because they fear it means more Tory rule. Now, I don't myself think that's the case. I think it can have the opposite effect. It can make people in England realise you can change things, you can do things. So what would your message be, particularly to the left in England, some of whom do support independence, but many of whom are kind of saying, oh, you know, we need this class solidarity, which is fine, but you can have solidarity across borders. Really.
I don't think it's the idea that somehow that because we become independent, because we are seeking self-determination, that all of a sudden that class solidarity ends, or so, as you said, in terms of solidarity across borders. For me, as an internationalist, I'm not a nationalist, but solidarity means solidarity with people in Liverpool, Manchester, Newcastle, people in London, but also with people in Bombay and Karachi and Dublin and New York. I don't see why it should just stop, you know, within England. That for me sums up exactly what Labour's all about. You know, it's racist to the core, and it's the one that's nationalistic, British nationalism. They want to tar us with the word nationalism, but actually they're the ones who are the British nationalists. But I think genuinely, to people in the left, they do need to regroup. In Scotland, it's meant the rebirth of people in the left. Many people who were torn to pieces, tore each other apart a few years ago, have actually come together. You would never have seen these people in the same rooms. But they've actually been dragged there kicking and screaming because, as usual, they've had to run to catch up. It's actually been young people, the movement's bigger than them, and things that they would have written off a couple of years ago, actually, well, they're left behind. Young people are leading the movement. You know, there's people who've come out of the woodwork, grassroots, ingenuity, all ways of dealing with things that people would never ever have imagined. Now that could have an impact. Imagine this, if the first step an independent Scotland did was to take weapons of mass destruction and remove them once and for all from Scottish oil, what a message that would give, not just to the world, but to people in England. If we implemented a free education system, welfare state, etc., and we showed that we use the resources of this country, oil, whatever the resources are, and use them for the benefit of ordinary people, that would be showing the people of the north and people in England, actually this is possible. And it shows there's a country there that's willing to do it. And I think that's what's terrifying the ruling class, that's what's terrifying the bankers. People saying, oh, the banks are going heebie-jeebie, and, you know, they're sort of like starting to fall apart, and they're, you know, billions are being wiped up. The reason why billions are being wiped up, because they're absolutely petrified of losing the jewel in the crown, of losing the resources and thinking, or how are we going to cope? And also the fact that if we do get it, then obviously there's pressure on the mainstream politicians up here to have to deliver. You know, fair enough, on the 19th people will maybe have a rest, but come the 20th, the real battle starts. It's the start of a journey. You know, it's not a case of that we got it and now we go away, we put an X in the box and that's the end of the matter. It's a case of what happens next. People are engaged, people are angry, people want things to change. They're not just going to walk away now. Whether it be a yes or a no, people are ready to get stuck in.
Well, I certainly hope so, and thank you very, very much for doing the interview, and good luck.
Cheers. Right, thank you.
Okay, well, cheers, Aamar, that was great.
Right, I better get home.